Vaheguru, 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 Vaheguru,
Vaheguru Sahib Jiyo. तुम हो सब राजन के राजा, आपे आप गरीब निवाजा, दास जान कर कृपा करो मोहे, हार परा मैं आन द्वार तोहे। सगल द्वार को छाड़ के गहो तुहारो द्वार, बाहें गहे की लाज अस, गोबिंद दास तुहार, गोबिंद दास तुहार। सासंग रब की फतेह जी। वाहिगुरु जी का खालसा, वाहिगुरु जी की फतेह। Great turnout, well done. We're all nearly here. So just keep going. So this week we're going through we've got 3 sessions left of the course, I think. So we'll check in a minute. But effectively we've got 3 parts of history left to cover, yeah, and then the Anandakara. So it's 4 sessions. And last week we covered Kirtan. So this week we're covering just a quick recap for those that who was here last week for the Kirtan one. Okay, all right. So most of you will be happy with the idea of what is Rag and what is Tal now. What's Tal? The beat, yeah. So different kinds of beats, and then the Rag is obviously the kind of flavor of the music. We then looked at things like how is Guru Granth Sahib Ji structured by Rag. What is a Rag? What are the Sikh Rags? Because there are other Rags, but they're not devotional Rags. There might be other Rags for maybe for passion. We don't need those of that type, yeah? So there's some things that were left out and some things that were included, because obviously the focus of Sikhi is to connect to the one, yeah? Styles of Kirtan, we looked at instruments, great Kirtanis, how even knowledge is passed on, and how can we actually halt the decline and actually bring about a resurgence, yeah? So there's a continual decline. We haven't got into resurgences yet. Yeah, people think, oh, there's more going on, but overall, there's still a decline going on. And this week, then we're covering from 1801, see, all the way up to 1925. So our clicker's not working, so apologies for that. So the part A of this will be basically from 1801, when Ranjit Singh starts to set up, Sikh Raj, all the way up to his death and the decline. So what you've got is in 1873, Sultan-e-Qaum, Jagraj Singh Ahluwalia, not the himself. Sorry, go back. He's basically, just keep going back a bit more. Back. Yeah. So he's sorry. He's one of the leaders of the Panth, chosen by the Panth as the Sultan. Yeah. So he's a great inspirational Sikh, and he's at the point where he's obviously old. He passed away. Unfortunately, with his passing away, what you then get is that the missiles start fighting amongst themselves. Yeah. And within this fighting amongst the different people, because now there's peace in Punjab. Yeah. The Ahmad Shah Abdali has stopped attacking. Yeah. He's staying up in Afghanistan. The Mughal kingdom is in decline in Delhi. Yeah. So what you've got is like a power vacuum. Yeah. And in that power vacuum, the Sikhs now have kind of taken over Punjab. The problem though is that the Sikhs are divided into different missiles. Yeah. And as the Sultan of the Qaum passes away, then these missiles become more and more, divided. There's a bit of a land grab going on, a bit of a power grab going on, and unfortunately within that, then you end up getting egos clashing against each other, and the Panth thing is kind of forgotten about while they're trying to make themselves powerful and rich. And so all the Sikh kingdoms kind of flow from this point onwards. Yeah, what happened in that time and during Ranjit Singh's time. Ranjit Singh is very young. He's born in 1780. He's only a baby when Jagraj Singh Ahluwalia passes away. But we'll talk about his background. But effectively, by 1799, he's taken over Lahore. Yeah, and then what you get then is from 1801, not only is he taken over Lahore, but then he consolidates his Raj and becomes the king of Punjab, or what he calls himself is it's called the Sarkar-e-Khalsa. Yeah. Within that period from 1801 to 1839, 38 years, Ranjit Singh passed away. What happens after that is you get the 10 years of infighting from 1839 to 1849. These 10 years are kind of like where the destruction of the Raj actually happens, yeah, of the Sikh Raj, not the British Raj. And then from 1849, then the British take over Punjab, and now you've got the British Raj. And part B will then cover what happens with the Sikhs. Well, somebody complained about this idea, Sikhs under the British, but that is what it was. Yeah, the Sikh Raj was gone, and we were being controlled by the British people. This 75-year period, okay, from 1849, we stop at 1925 because this is the. Oh, okay, I forgot to put that in. 1925 is when the Gurdwara Reform Act is done, and the Sikhs now get control of our Gurdwara back. Okay, SGPC is created by that time, and now it controls the Gurdwara. So basically, our institutions are free from British control. Yeah, so that's what we're going to cover today, from 1849 in Part B up to 1925. So the Raj of Ranjit Singh, the rise of him. What's his background? He's the great-grandson of Bhai Budh Singh. Bhai Budh Singh is one of the Panj Pyare, alongside Baba Deep Singh, yeah, who is actually giving the Nawabi to Sardar Nawab Kapoor Singh. But Nawab Kapoor, the most, you know, time Bhai Mani Singh this is, yeah, and this is right back in the history now. Bhai Mani Singh, at that time, the Mughals came up to the Sikhs and they said, look, we've tired of fighting you. How about you give us one person as a leader, and you come under our system, and you have your own freedom. And at that time, then the Panth chose Nawab Kapoor Singh. Nawab Kapoor Singh didn't want to be a Nawab until the Panth gives it to him. So the Panj Pyare of the Panth, at that time, Baba Deep Singh was one of them, and so was Bhai Budh Singh, who his son, Bhai Nod Singh, ended up becoming the head of Sukracharya Missile, one of the missiles that was around for all that time. And then his son is Maha Singh, again the head, and then his son is Ranjit Singh. So you can see that his whole family has been involved very closely with the Sikh Panth, yeah, and he's been a sort of bred to be a leader, yeah. His dad was leader, his grandfather was, the great grandfather was leader, so he's bred to be a leader. He's blind in one eye, so they often, one of the sort of the way that the people derogatory refer to him is Kana, yeah, because he was one-eyed. He used to say, look, God gave me one eye so I could look upon all of humanity in the same way. Because you see later on, he didn't discriminate at all. What he did is, as part of his missile, growing up, he took over responsibility quite early, okay, and he fought off the Afghan invasion, and he's part of the battles in 1796, 1797, and 1798 by Shah Zaman. Won a lot of respect for that, for his kind of military prowess. So although he was blind in one eye, he wasn't this feeble kind of person. He was actually militarily very astute. You know, from very young age, he would have been involved in battle. Great horse rider as well. And then what you get is in 1799, he decides, right, you know, these other missiles are never going to get things done. I'm going to walk in, and he basically took over Lahore. And then in those 2 years, he did, and before that as well, he did a lot of kind of political maneuvering. So marrying daughters of other missile leaders, yeah, so he's got a relationship with them, or annexing them. And within this time, he basically consolidated his position as the leader of all the missiles, and then in 1801 gets crowned Maharaja of the Sikh Raj of Punjab, yeah? And he calls it Sarkar-e Khalsa. He didn't say Ranjit Singh's Raj. He calls it the Khalsa Raj, yeah? Another big leader at that time was Fateh Singh Ahluwalia. In 1802, Ranjit Singh and Fateh Singh swapped turbans. It's a symbolic thing among Sikhs, yeah? To give your turban to somebody. It's a sign of respect, a sign of, you know, like Saropa is, yeah? And again, this was about him consolidating his status as the Raja, yeah? Because it's not happened before. There's not been one undisputed leader who is, you know, like this, unless he's somebody from the Sikh point of view. Like Ranjit Singh was not really like, he was a Sikh, but he wasn't really what you might say like a religious leader, yeah? He was a cultural leader, right? So, but consolidating that position, he managed to do that. And by 1802, actually same time as this is happening, is consolidating his rule, the Khalsa is also showing itself for what it is, yeah? Because basically Ranjit Singh in 1802, very interesting incident, in his kind of being crowned the king, yeah, the exuberance of him being the Raja, he's got kind of like a number of wives, but also he decides that he falls in love with this Muslim dancing lady, yeah, Mora, and he decides, well, he's going to marry her as well. Okay. Now the Sikh strict Khalsa rehat is that a Singh can never marry a Muslim lady. Yeah. So it's very written up in all the Ratman. There's quite plenty of Ratnam about this, that Sikh should never marry a Muslim. Now, whatever view it was, at that time the Sikhs were venturing into areas full of Muslims, okay, and they were rescuing people as well. So in order for the Sikhs to remain sort of strict in their sort of like relationship with the Muslims, not to start, you know, marrying their girls, converting them in. You can take many views. My view is that Maharaj didn't want to have this kind of animosity, because many people get very hot-headed when they feel that their women are being targeted. Yeah, you can see that in our Panth as well. And so the Sikhs would never do that, because it was against their dharam to ever marry a Muslim. Yeah, so basically he married Mora, and Akali Phula Singh was Jathar of the Akal Takht at the time. He was very offended by this. Okay, it was against the Maryada. So they called him to answer at the Akal Takht. And Ranjit Singh, saying, you know, well, I'm the Raja, says, I refuse to go. Why should I go? I've done nothing wrong. Yeah? Many of us nowadays might have a similar kind of attitude when we get called up. Yeah? Well, I've done nothing wrong. So he refused to go. So Akal Takht says, no one is to speak to him. Edhe muh nahi lagna. Now he is the king of Punjab, yeah? And all the castes have been giving an order, no one is to talk to Ranjit Singh. Yeah? So imagine it. And this is exactly what happens. In the morning he gets up, yeah? The guy who's his kind of, you know, manservant doesn't talk to him. When he goes outside to go for horse riding, first thing he does is go horse riding, the stable boys don't talk to him. Yeah? The caste at that time could give a hukum to the Sikhs, and the Sikhs would listen to that hukum. So Ranjit Singh goes, I can't rule this kingdom before the Sikhs don't talk to me. Yeah? So then he did appear at the Akal Takht, yeah, with his tail between his legs, and he accepted the punishment as well. Yeah? He was asked to accept 20 lashings, I think, with a whip. And he did take his shirt off and allowed himself to be tied to a post, ready for the lashing. But then Akali Phula Singh forgave him. He said, look, he's the king, but he's accepted the power of the Khalsa, but we're not going to whip him because that would be humiliating, because he's the king of the Punjab as well. So then they forgave him, but the Khalsa was still supreme. So to bear in mind that there was this kind of like a power struggle between what was the Sikh leadership and the political leadership, but also that the respect for the Khalsa amongst the Sikh populace was still very much there. Okay, the Akal Takht, if they gave a hukum, people still listened to it. Okay, so what happens next? Now, keep going. What happens though is that Ranjit Singh, he's not really in the interest of the sort of wider Khalsa. When we say Khalsa here, we're effectively talking about the Nihang Singhs. Yeah, most of the Khalsa at that time, the leadership was Nihang Singh leadership. Yeah, and he decided, Ranjit Singh, that, you know, this every 6 months we used to have a study about the Khalsa. Yeah, we talked about this before. That every Vaisakhi it would be in Anandpur Sahib, and in Anandpur Sahib. No, every Vaisakhi it would be in Anandpur Sahib. Yeah, and then every Diwali would be in Harmandir Sahib. Every 6 months there will be a big Panthik meet. We will discuss what's our next 6 month plan, what we're going to do next. Yeah, and Ranjit Singh says to Akali Phula Singh, look, there's no need for this. Yeah, we've got the Raj already. What we have in these meetings for all the time, I'm already the king. We've got the Khalsa Raj. So these are kind of discontinued. And effectively now, many of us have never heard of a Panthik meeting like this. Yeah? It's sort of gone outside our consciousness. And even in the UK, I can't think of any regular Panthik meeting that happens where we actually have a plan. Very hard for us to pinpoint what is a 1 year plan for the Panth, what is a 5 year plan for the Panth. And that's because we stopped planning. We've stopped working as a team. Yeah? So you could say that from this point on, this decline in planning comes into our Panth. Yeah? The Sikh missiles at that time were pretty much all horsemen. Now, in the Western world, you would call this cavalry. Okay, having a horse was like you know the main thing. Everybody wanted a horse. Yeah, the Singhs had a lot of respect for their horses. They were called Jan Bhai. They used to say, look, you know, if your woman dies, you might not cry, but if your horse dies, you definitely would cry. Yeah, it's Jan Bhai. So they had this kind of love for the horses. Yeah. Shastra, obviously, Shastra Vidya being the art of war, very much practiced by the Sikhs, yeah? And if you joined, it wasn't regular training, so every missile would have its own kind of in-house leader, yeah? And people that joined would get given training, yeah? Now, some missiles were better than other missiles at fighting in a certain different way, But they were all sort of trained themselves, but there was no regularized army training. It wasn't like you joined up the army, they did the training. It's like, for example, Sandhurst, it trains everybody for the whole army. Yeah, but you might go to different regiments and yet you're centrally trained. There was nothing like this now of Panth, at that time. It was all different missiles. Everybody provided their own horse and whatever weapons they had. So they were from a rich family, they had more shastras. They were from a poor family, they didn't have as much. Yeah, but it's kind of like you join the army and then you effectively lived off the commander, but you brought what you brought. You sort of benefited from what you brought to the party. So it's quite different. And it was all about personal loyalty to the leader, the head of the missiles. Yeah, so that's why you get this kind of infighting as well, because it wasn't really about the wider Panth at that time when you were in your missile. It was about your leadership, and it was all guerrilla warfare. Why? Because for the last 100 years, effectively, the Sikhs have been fighting in a guerrilla warfare style tactic. Yeah, ever since the first Khalsa Raj in Sirhind was lost after Banda Singh Bahadur time. Since then, the Panth has been, refugees. Yeah, and kind of Chakravarti all the time. So that's the Khalsa army. But Ranjit Singh, he wants to set up an even better army. Yeah, he's very far-thinking, very kind of progressive leader, and what he wants to do is bring up to the standard of modern day world. And he's seen the British fight, very impressed by the way the British have fought and Western armies have fought, because it's all systematic training, discipline. Yeah, and they've seen small groups of British soldiers beat off much larger forces. Yeah, in numbers, because of their discipline. So he likes this, and what he wants to do is let's set up a well-drilled infantry, a well-drilled artillery, and also the third bit shouldn't be artillery, should be horses, yeah, cavalry. So what he does is he knows we already got a good cavalry, okay, that's guys on horses, but what we need to do now is train infantry and artillery, and the expertise of this is not in the Sikh Panth at this moment, it's in the Western generals. So he said, let's get some people in to train our guys, yeah. Very far thinking. Keep going. Now, for those that don't know what infantry is, it's foot soldiers. Now, in those days, it was not, the Sikhs didn't see this as a glamorous job. Walking around with a gun in your hand wasn't seen as cool as being on a horse. So you had to sell it to the Sikhs as well. Yeah. First thing he did is he employed former soldiers from the East Indian Army, not Western generals, but just soldiers to come in and train. And then he sent some people to study the British methods, okay, and then finally he actually hired people as well. But one thing he did is he started say, look, the Sikhs don't like it too much being infantry soldiers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hire, okay, soldiers who are not Sikhs. So he started to hire Purbiyas, these are South people, Punjabi Muslims, the Afghans, and Gurkhas. So now it becomes quite an eclectic army, yeah. But these troops did quite well, and he gave them a lot of respect. So they were tested in the campaign against Ahmad Khan Sial of Jagraj, and also Zamindars of Uch, yeah, in 1803 and 1804. So these guys do quite well. He always came to the training sessions as well. So he gave it a lot of respect, and basically through a sort of quite a good PR campaign, you might say, yeah, he raised the status of being an infantry soldier. Okay, and what you then is you get Sikhs start joining up as well. They want some of the action, because whenever you go and win a battle and you come back with big medals and stuff, people are like, yo, I want to join that regiment. They're getting action. It might be strange from our point of view here, as kind of civilians, to think that you actually want to go to battle. But if you're in the army, what you don't want to do is spend your time on barracks, on training exercises. What you actually want to do is go on tours and get experience in war. Yeah. So from that point of view of a soldier, to have a unit which is always being deployed and getting loads of medals, then that's exciting. It's a place to join. The next thing is artillery. Okay, he increased the importance. Now we already had artillery from the time of Guru Har Gobind Sahib Maharaj. Sikhs have had artillery. Yeah? Guru Har Gobind Sahib Maharaj has actually invented a wooden cannon. It was seen as something that couldn't happen, but Maharaj made it. Yeah. So, but nowadays, at that time, the guns weren't really as big. They could even be animal mounted. Now, an animal would not be able to carry a proper cannon. Yeah? It would kill it. But those times they weren't so big. So he started to manufacture cannons that were of higher caliber, a larger caliber, and ammunition. So we're talking the bigger torps. Yeah. And he hired, one guy was this Ilahi Baksh and Lena Singh Majitia, yeah? And then he actually hired General August Court, yeah? Who in 1827, so he's now bringing in expertise, yeah, from outside. And also Alexander Gardner. So these people, some of their memoirs are available, which you can read, yeah? Which is interesting to see how the court actually operated. And obviously they communicated with their family back home, they communicated. So we have a lot of insight into how Ranjit Singh's kingdom worked. Many books out there, obviously I can't in this point go through quickly, but if you just typed in like the Maharaja of Ranjit Singh, there's many novels as well, worth reading, okay? He also hires this guy who's a physician to, you know, how to mix gunpowder. So he's a scientist effectively, yeah? You know, like I was reading about the owner of the one who invented the Kalashnikov, yeah? He always regretted it, making it, and but he was hiring people who were like scientists in how to be better and better at warfare. So again, very far thinking. So effectively what you've got is a very exciting new kingdom, foreigners coming in, okay? People who are decorated generals are leaving their careers abroad and coming over here. At that time, there was a recent lecture I went by Sukhpreet Singh Odoke, and he was giving a quote about how much the salary was. And the salary in Punjab for a Western general was about 20 times what they would have earned back for their own kingdom. So nowadays, people from India and Punjab are coming over here because the salaries here are much higher. But in those days, Punjab was so rich, okay, that people from abroad were running over to Punjab to earn money. Also, you've got to bear in mind that the Napoleonic wars were over. So a lot of experienced generals were now coming over thinking, what should I do next? And India, Punjab specifically, seemed like a mighty great adventure. Because if they're French, they don't want to work for the British. But here, they're working for the Sikhs, yeah? So it's something different for independent Raja. Okay, yeah, that's what I just said now. So the Napoleonic War was ended, and there was a lot of glory and riches in the army. So the cavalry was now being reorganized, artillery was being built up, and the infantry was being built up, yeah? And these are the generals that were brought in for the mounted soldiers or the cavalry. Jean-Baptiste Ventura, Jean-François Allard, they arrived in Lahore 1822. And he sort of checked up on them as well. You know, he was quite an astute person. He wasn't like somebody who would just say, yeah, he's come along and say, I'm the best general since sliced bread, and, you know, just get him on. He was quite careful about who he hired. And then he ended up making this special sort of SAS type soldiers, yeah, which was their forge cast. And he basically, again, made them train soldiers that were even better than the best soldiers that were available amongst the Sikh community, yeah, at that time. But still, the Nihang Singhs remained the most ferocious and the best warriors within his unit, yeah, because they lived that Chakravarti lifestyle all the time. The expansion of the kingdom now. So he's making this army, he's training them, investing a lot in the Sikh forge, in the training of it. At the same time, he's expanding the kingdom, yeah. He's not like some, I'm going to chill with my kingdom, and, you know, he's actually he's managed to capture the whole of Punjab, but he's not happy with that. He wants to grab it and make it even bigger. So what you get is, then he pushed the Duranis. Duranis are those Abdalis, yeah? Ahmad Shah Abdali, he's also called Ahmad Shah Durrani. So he pushes them out of Punjab and actually invades Afghanistan. He's not content to kind of push them back to their homeland. He's going to rule over you. So he pushes them back and expands the boundary of the Sikh Empire all the way to Peshawar, which is in the top west, and then Jammu and Kashmir. So it should be Jammu, not Jammu. And the two key generals that do this for him, okay, is the first one is Hari Singh Nalwa, okay, who, you know, is basically responsible for the Afghanistan campaign. Now, Hari Singh Nalwa was, there's loads of stories about him, by the way. Very chardi kala banda, quite a big guy as well. But he was like the bogeyman for the Afghans, yeah? You want to scare your kids, innit? And the Afghans would tell their kids, Nallu's going to come and get you, yeah? And it was like, you know, the scariest guy ever. And he was. Now, the story about him, that once a lady, a Muslim lady, saw him and was so enamored by this guy that she said to him, you know, I want a son like you, so I want to marry you. Yeah, and he was in a conundrum now, because she'd asked him, you know, she goes, you Sikhs never refuse anybody, so don't refuse me either. I want to have children by you so they can be as brave and strong as you. And also the Guru's hukam is you can't marry a Muslimani. So what does he do? He says, sit down. He sits in her lap. He says, I'll be your son. So you want a son like me? I'll be your son. Yeah? And so what can she do now? So he kind of gets out of it, but he still fulfills a Sikh mission of, of fulfilling the demands of those people. So, very, very high moral character. Okay. In Zorawar Singh is a general, not so famous amongst the Sikhs at the moment, but a lot of work is being done by a Sikh historian, Dr. Udoke, yeah, talking about him. He's making a movie. He came down last year. Recently he came to Southall and showed some clips, and they've gone and retraced the history. Now Zorawar Singh, he did the attack over Kashmir and Tibet, yeah. Now the Tibetans, right, they respect the lion and the tiger. They've got this thing for the Singh, yeah. And they see it as holy. So if they find a flesh or a piece of, a claw from a lion, they'll take it back to their house. He was such a warrior, yeah, Zorawar Singh, that when he died in battle, the Tibetans actually chopped him up into little pieces. They took a piece back to their house. Because they said, "This Singh here, this guy was as strong as a lion." Yeah. So that's the respect. You might say, "Well, it's quite gory," but really, the respect they had for Zorawar Singh was there in the fact that how they treated him in his death as well. Yeah. So a lot of our history needs to be discovered. But basically, they did some crazy missions out there at that time, and they were really, really, impressive. And Ranjit Singh was very happy with, obviously, the fact they expanded the kingdom. So now the Sikh kingdom is massive. Yeah. Look at the size of that now. Punjab is probably about a fifth or maybe even a sixth of that right now, maybe even less than that, compared to what Punjab is now. Take Haryana away, take Himachal Pradesh away, take away Pakistan, Punjab, and what we've got now is so tiny compared to how big that kingdom was. Obviously, he's helped in these battles by the Khalsa. Yeah, as I'm talking about the Khalsa, I mean the Nihang Singh army, the Akali Phula Singh and the Akal Takht. They're still involved in this expansion. Yeah. And also we've got Diwan Mokham Chand, who is a Hindu general of the Khalsa army. Okay, so you've seen, so far I've mentioned we had Muslim soldiers. So the Ranjit Singh's Raj, or the Sarkar-e-Khalsa, the majority of the population of the Sarkar-e-Khalsa is not actually Sikh. Yeah, Sikhs are only a very small population, because you've got all these Hindus, you've got all these Muslims. You've now got in the army Muslim regiments, Gurkha regiments, Hindu regiments. You've got generals who are Muslim and Hindu. So it's a very eclectic army. And yet, within this time, Punjab is very happy. Very secular. He's a very secular ruler. And also Punjab goes through a very nice sort of period of growth, yeah, of the arts, all kinds of things. One of the things, obviously, I say he didn't discriminate between the Sikhs and the others. Fakir Azizuddin is a foreign minister. I went to a lecture a couple of years ago by some of his descendants. Yeah, and they were talking about how, they remember the stories of their great-grandfather talking about his time in the Sikh Raj. Yeah, so the descendants of these people are still around. We've got a lot of records of this, Raj. Yeah, he also, so Diwan Moti Ram is co-head of the mission to the British. So he sets up a mission to the British to establish relationships with the British at like what you might call at international level at that time. Yeah, because that was a nation, and the British had a nation obviously abroad, but they had a nation in India as well, the British Raj. Yeah, just to tell you what's happening at that time is the British by now had kind of taken over the East India Company, roughly, yeah, and they'd nationalized it effectively. Pretty much it was a trading company that became part of the British Kingdom, yeah, and with that they set up in the Sikh Raj. Okay, I don't know if it was at that time or it comes later, but the machinations were in place for them to set up a Sikh, a British Raj in India. Okay. So what he did is he negotiated a treaty with the British, where they drew lines. What was a Sikh kingdom? What was a British kingdom? Yeah, and a treaty not to invade each other, effectively, and respect each other's, territorial integrity. So very forward thinking. Yeah, at that time, he didn't let them come into. He sort of, delayed them enough to make them think that there was no need for them to kind of, attack him and take over his kingdom. But obviously they wanted to. It was a very fertile region, lots of money, very rich area. Okay, just to note on this, yeah, what you'll see next, the Dogras, they were Kashmiri Hindu Brahmins. Okay, these people were the generals, Dhyan Singh and Gulab Singh. I know they've got the name Singh in there, but the Singh is not a exclusively Sikh surname, just in India. You see loads of Rajputs and so these two, and it's like a royal surname. These two were generals in the Sikh army. Yeah? So you see that he's not really, again, discriminating. However, was this as what the Khalsa would do? Yeah. Now you might say, well, no, the Khalsa would always be, independent. But Maharaj says in their hukum that the Sikhs should only trust power into the hands of the Khalsa, real power, yeah, because somebody else could turn on you. Exactly what happened to him later on, yeah. So they say that it's okay to share opportunities and everything else, but when it comes to actually political power, and it comes, then the Khalsa Raj should only trust the Khalsa. Power should remain within the hands of the Khalsa. And unfortunately with Ranjit Singh, he went to the principle, to the extreme, where he said, no, everybody's equal and everybody's fine to expand. And then it actually worked against him to his detriment, okay? Because he maligned the Khalsa effectively. The Khalsa leadership of, when I say the Khalsa, I mean the kind of Akal Takht, Akali Phula Singh. He wasn't really, they didn't trust him too much. He didn't really trust them too much. He didn't give them too much power, okay? He was happy to give power away to Dogras and the other people, but not to the Khalsa itself, yeah? So he used them more as the soldiers, not political allies. Now this worked against him because you'll see later on what the Dogras did. They were the main betrayers of the Sikh Raj, okay? Also, just a point for those people that like their arts and stuff, yeah? Under Ranjit Singh, then the arts in Punjab really flourish. Okay, a lot of the arts we see nowadays, Fulkari, all these beautiful styles, that all flourished under Ranjit Singh, calligraphy, yeah? And again, a very stable period of time, religion and arts were sponsored. There was no death penalty, by the way, in the Sikh Raj. Something to note, okay, when we talk about rules of how a government should govern. Sikhs never had a death penalty, okay? He also kept in check a lot of the fanatical imams, okay? So they were denied patronage, and the people that were more, kind of peace-loving, kind of our type of Muslims, you might say, sounds rude, but yeah, it's the fact. They were sponsored. Cow slaughter was banned, yeah, because he's you don't want to offend anybody either, okay? Make it kind of like a secular Raj. He put gold on the Harmandir Sahib and also built up Hazur Sahib, okay? Now Hazur Sahib, Maharaj Guru Gobind Singh Ji had said that no one should build a big monument here to me. Anybody who does so, their whole family will be ruined. So if you see what happens afterwards, Ranjit Singh's whole kind of parivar goes, but it's Maharaj said that don't make a monument to me, and yet he did so, yeah? So you can see, the bachans do come true. When Guru Sahib says something, it inevitably has to come true, yeah? He also, the gold on the Harmandir Sahib obviously came from him. So it was previously, it wasn't gold. So now we call it the Golden Temple, but it should be called Harmandir Sahib because the golden part isn't what the Guru's put on it. It was white before, yeah? And later on, he also put gold on another famous Hindu mandir as well. The doors at Harmandir Sahib, the big wooden doors at Darshan Deori. As you go into Harmandir Sahib, they kind of go to that doorway. That was again something that he made. Yeah, these beautiful doors, and similar set were given to a Hindu mandir as well. Yeah, so he really wasn't like saying, okay, we've got to make sure that our Gurdwara are perfect. He was very secular in that way. Yeah, but like I said at the bottom, his relationship with the Nihangs and the Khalsa was not that great. They didn't recognize him as a Khalsa leader. They saw him as a political leader. Yeah, and they only really looked at the Akal Takht, but also, although he needed the Khalsa, okay, to fight all his battles, he also was a bit scared of them. When they would do the march past, when you have a general and you see a parade, yeah, you have all your troops march past. When the Nihang Sikhs would come past in their contingent, they would often swear at him. Yeah, so you can imagine that somebody's walking past and they go like that to see if he would jump or something, and they would take the mick out of him quite a bit. And he used to have a bodyguard, yeah, in front of him when the Nihang Sikhs walked past, just in case he decides to throw something at his head or something, just to make him realize who he was and who they were. They still saw themselves as the rulers of Punjab, and that he was just kind of, there for now, but they're the rightful owners. So now what happens in the fall? So you've got this kind of build up, great period of stability, but there's a lot of expansion, but not a lot of forward thinking and forward planning for the succession plan. Okay, one of the things the Sikhs again are very bad at, and you might say our community still suffers from this. A lot of our Gurdwara aren't really making plans to build up the next generation of leadership to grow the Gurdwara forward. How do we train the next generation of committee wale and pradhans and treasurers and political leaders? We haven't really got a plan in place. But effectively what happens is that Akali Phula Singh passes away 1823 in fighting the Afghanis. 1837 Hari Singh Nalwa and Fateh Singh Aliwala pass away. So a lot of the main people that he kind of had his links with, okay, they sort of, with age pass away. 1839 then he himself passes away. Okay. Now some of the nicknames for him obviously were Sher-e-Punjab, Napoleon of the East, Lord of the Five Rivers, yeah. But he's only 58 years old at this time. He's been ruling since he was about 19, yeah. Most of his life, twice of his life he's been ruling. But again, he didn't have a set organization in place from his sons or whoever to be taking over, right? There's a bit of controversy around his death, so I'll put it in there just to let you know. Okay, a lot of his wives, okay, a number of his courtesans and servants as well, they all committed sati. So sati is when they jump on the funeral pyre, well they don't jump on it, but they sit on it, and they kind of burn to death alongside the husband. Okay, now that obviously sounds very horrible to us. The context is that Guru Amar Das Ji Maharaj had banned this. Okay, they had banned sati. And yet it was still carrying on. Guru Amar Das Ji Maharaj obviously is in the 1500s. Okay, so you can imagine, this is 1700s, 200 years have passed, and yet this cultural practice remains. Where it stemmed from was the fact that people didn't want a widow, because widows weren't allowed to remarry. They didn't want a woman around, okay, because it might tempt other men. Okay, it could break up marriages, whatever it wasn't ideal for them. So they just made up this thing going, how good would it is very loyal of the wife to burn with the husband. And they dressed it up, and sold it to the women. And some of them actually bought into this. Yeah, they bought in. Obviously, these ladies didn't have to, but they bought into it. A lot of them didn't, but some of them did. Okay. A point on this: General Shyam Singh Atariwala, another famous general, okay, who I'll mention him in a little while. His wife did the same thing as well. So it was a Punjabi thing. So still Punjabiyat hasn't come into the consciousness of the Sikhs. They're still behaving Punjabi, not necessarily behaving Sikh way. Yeah. In 1841, then General Jagraj Singh passes away. Yeah. So now you've seen the main leaders, the main generals are passing away. He passes away. So who's going to take over next? Who is the next kind of main person? Somebody who's got to be militarily strong, yeah, politically strong, used to planning forwards, and no one really is there. And he has 7 sons by different wives. Okay. The Khadak Singh is the oldest. As soon as he passes, Khadak Singh is then called and is proclaimed as the emperor. The problem is Khadak Singh is a bit of a wastrel, yeah, not well respected, bit of a druggie as well, yeah, because a lot of opium floating around in Punjab, yeah. Obviously Afghanistan is around the corner, so there's not a lot of people that would back this guy to be the leader. And soon enough, his son, Maharaja Nonehal Singh, takes power and ends up putting down his father. Okay, and that's from effectively, I'm not sure whether he killed him or not, but 1839 to 1840, so for about a year, Nonehal Singh is in charge, but then I don't know what happens to him, I haven't researched it too much, but he's effectively deposed as well. So he comes out, and Maharani Chand Kaur comes in, and she becomes the empress for about 2 years, until Sher Singh, her son, takes over. Okay, and then he's only in power for roughly maybe 2 years, and then he's deposed, and then the Dalip Singh becomes the king, but he's not old enough to rule. He's a very young child, and his mother, which is Maharani Jind Kaur, then becomes the Dowager Empress. Can you go back one? Okay, she becomes, and he's effectively the Dalip Singh is effectively the ruler of Punjab from 43, 44 through to 49 for about 5 years. You can see how quickly things go through. This is not a stable handover, no transition, yeah? Power's going all over the place, court intrigue, yeah? And all because Ranjit Singh should have really planned, yeah? And all the gurus always planned, yeah, for the next. And this is the way that you are a far-thinking leader, yeah? You realize you're getting old, your friends are passing away, you have a will, and it's done properly. What happens with the Dalip Singh, yeah? And it's kind of like this period from 1849, I mentioned earlier, from 1839, Ranjit Singh's death, to 1849. These 10 years is when the Sikh Raj is destroyed and the British take over. And the 2 Anglo-Sikh wars take place within this time. Yeah. So 10 years to destroy what it took him from 1801 to build up. Yeah. What happens in this time? First war is in 1845 to 46. Yeah, and the second one is 1848 to 49. Obviously, the second one ends with the annexation. Okay, General Sham Singh Atariwala is one of the major peoples inside this. Yeah, you can read into the two wars. Within a war, you've got loads of battles. Yeah, battle here, battle there. One of the major battles was the Battle of Sabran. Now, we here might not know much about it, but if you go into the British Army now and you walk, you will see the colours and these battles being commemorated, because units that are still around now would have fought in those battles, yeah? Because they note down their history, who fought where, what colours did they gain. They've got sarups of Maharaj from that time. They've got shastras that they captured from the battlefield, Sikh flags that they captured from that time. That are all floating around. I've seen some of this because I was in the army for 4 years. So I've seen, like, I've gone to a place and it's like Sabran written up. You know, when they had like all the battles they fought, and there you see us, you know, or you know, like it's interesting to see so much of, you know, Sikh history is actually here as well. And it been, you know, the Anglo-Sikh Heritage Trail do a very good job of preserving some of these things, so you can look up that history of this time. The Battle of Sabran was a very famous battle, so I mention it here. Basically, Lal Singh Dogra sold information about the Sikh defences, okay, and they didn't. Some of the even at some points, yeah, when people were asking for ammunition, they were sending the wrong things in, so they would send them like the wrong supplies, so they couldn't fight. And the Sikhs were betrayed from within. Most of the time, the battles were lost because of betrayals, okay, and information being leaked. And this is one time where a bridge was broken and 20,000 soldiers were captured, were basically trapped on an island, okay, which was surrounded by the British. The British were expecting them to give up, yeah, and capitulate. Not one of them surrendered, yeah, from this 20k. And you get a lot of people swimming away, and they say about 10,000 Sikhs died in that battle there. And Sham Singh Atariwala obviously died. His wife, when she heard about the battle, knew that her husband was dead, because he was not the kind of person to run away. Yeah, she knew he was dead, and she just lit the pyre for herself, and she cremated herself. Yeah, so in 1849, then, now who was the treachery? Where was the treachery mostly from? It was from the Dogras. Yeah, and Punjab gets annexed, okay, after these two wars. Yeah, so the Sikh kingdom is gone. The Kohinoor, which was a big fat diamond that Ranjit Singh had pretty much taken from the Afghan lords, yeah, who'd probably stolen it back from India anyway. That's taken away back to England, and it's cut up to increase the carat and the quality of it, and then now it's on the Queen. Yeah, she's got it on her crown, right? So just bear that in mind. It's not too far from here. You can go and see it at Tower of London, Tower Bridge. Yeah, you can go and see it there. I've been over there. Worthwhile to have a look what they nicked off us. A lot of Sikhs had tried to get this back, but then effectively, if we want it back, then the Afghans probably want it back, and then it goes back to the person who first had it. They want it back, and but they say whoever's had it has suffered misfortune. Yeah. Now, Dalip Singh, the little kid, he's taken to Britain, okay, under the protection of the crown. Got to believe what this is, yeah? The protection. The crown is bringing him back. He's become taken over. He becomes the godson of Queen Victoria. Yeah, she takes him on and converts to Christianity, okay, and basically becomes like a lord, an English lord. Yeah, if you see the photos of him, you'll be very surprised. He's like it was totally anglicized, You know, hardly speak any Punjabi or whatever, and lived in a place in Thetford in Essex. Yeah, and that place is still there. The house is still there. They kind of preserved that history as well. Later on, he meets his mother, okay, and he becomes a Singh again, and then basically goes back to Sikhi, and he's trying to recover his kingdom, but it's pretty much gone out of his hands by now. But he has his great dreams and ends up marrying a white lady. His daughters, I think one was called Bamba. There's a history of him. You can see he ends up dying in Paris, penniless. Yeah, but it's quite a tragic, kind of story of him and what he suffered, under British hands. This is the kind of, this is quotes from around about that time the Punjab kingdom was annexed. Okay, 1849. Just to give you an idea of what the Sikhs felt about the British, because now we keep bleating on. I might say bleating is the right word, about how great a history we have. We're such loyal soldiers, such loyal citizens. Just recently we've been talking about how loyal we are, but just go back to how our ancestors saw them when they first came in and tried to take over our kingdom. Okay, after the wars, Governor General Lord Dalhousie says, the hatred of the Sikhs against the British exceeds the national and religious animosity of the Sikhs against the Afghans. We hate the British more than we hate the Afghans. Yeah? There is a shoot to kill policy on the Nihangs at that time by the British. You see a Nihang saying you can shoot him. Yeah? It's that bad. This is what they say. Colonel Steinbach in 1846 is saying this about the Nihangs. He goes, they are without exception the most insolent and worthless race of people under the sun. They move about constantly armed to the teeth, insulting everybody they meet, particularly the Europeans. They're quite uncontrollable, and the only way to deal with them is to exterminate them. Yeah? Basically, you can't govern them. That's what they're saying. You can't govern them. British are very keen to bring people under their fold, give them a sort of role, and give them a kind of mandate, and then govern them. And the Khalsa is not prepared to be governed, yeah, by these guys. Well, let's have a. What's the time now? I haven't got time. Okay, we'll have a 5-minute break, 5-10 minute break. Yeah, you can have a bit of party, and then we're going to crack on with what happens in that kind of Sikhs being under the British, and what happens next. Okay, so as the British come in then, so does what you expect Christianity, okay? And the British make a number of other changes as well. So what happens is, firstly, there's kind of like a two-thing going on, two-prong kind of growth, which is kind of overall against Sikh interest, yeah? A new organization is being formed by that time, the Arya Samaj, yeah? They're kind of like a Hindu fundamentalist concept, right? And what they're saying is like the master race is the Hindus, and you guys, you Sikhs, have kind of gone away from where you should be back to, yeah? You don't need to go down this whole become all Khalsa and Sikhs. You can come back to the fold of Hinduism, yeah? The main kind of argument they use is that the Sikhism was formed to get rid of the Mughals. Mughals are gone now, so there's no longer need for you to be a Sikh, okay? Obviously the Singhs don't think that way. They think more Khalsa Raj way, but this was the policy they were saying. Also, Christian missionaries, okay? They come in, and they're quite keen to convert Sikhs. Sorry, so mention about the Arya Samaj. One of the things they end up doing is they work with the Mahants that are running the Gurdwaras, okay? And they kind of persuade them and however it works. But now you've got idols back into Harmandir Sahib, okay? So when you go to Harmandir Sahib, as you walk on the Parkarma at that time, obviously it's golden by now because of Ranjit Singh, but you would then see like statues of Guru Nanak Dev Ji and people putting hearts around them and bowing down to them and all kind of what you might call Murti Puja, yeah, happening inside the Gurdwara itself, okay? So, and the armed person, okay, remember a generation is only 20 years, yeah? So the armed person who sees this in 20 years will think this is all Sikhi is. In many ways, you might say, like for us lot, you know, when somebody says something a little bit, like I said earlier, that the Khalsa should only give rule or political power to the Khalsa, yeah? Or I might say the Sikhs see their religion as the best religion, yeah? For some people, they might find that a bit jarring, because what we've been told for many, many years is repeated saying, we see all religions as equal. Yeah, we see all religions as equal. We don't think we're better than anybody else. That doesn't make any sense from the Sikh point of view, really, logically, because if we didn't think Sikhi was better, why would we follow it? So when Guru Gobind Singh is saying, Tumko tumhara khoob, humko hamara khoob, that means to us, ours is beautiful. And for us, we do think our religion is the best way, but we don't then go and stuff it and cuss other people's religion and say, you shouldn't be your religion, yeah? It's like, it's a hard path to walk, and yet we walk it anyway, yeah? So we're, in the same way, Sikhi is now being diluted, but you can imagine that in 20 years, that dilution becomes generally accepted. It's very hard to then bring people back to what it was, yeah? So this dilution is happening at this time, yeah? Idols are coming in, the Mahants are hereditary people that have taken over the Gurdwara. A lot of them are Udasis and stuff. Because when the Nihang Singhs couldn't run the Gurdwara, okay, then they gave it to people that didn't look like Sikhs. Yeah? And these guys were, traditionally they were quite open-minded, okay, but they respect the Khalsa. Over time, those hereditary members start working against the Khalsa, okay, and they become antithetical to Sikhi. The Christian missionaries are very keen to convert. Obviously, they managed to convert the king of Punjab, Dalip Singh, in 1853. He converts to Christianity, cuts his case off. The Raja of Kapurthala, it's only 20 years after Ranjit Singh has died, yeah? In 1862, he invites, yeah, the missionaries to come over and preach, gives them like a mission, gives them Jagraj to come and set up a church, etc., and preach Christianity to. And 4 kids convert to Christianity. Now, why I mention these 4 kids, because this was quite a big thing. The 4 Sikh kids had converted to Christianity. Now, you can imagine nowadays people are talking about, oh, this person. It's almost like everybody knows somebody who somewhere might have converted. I've met so many people who said converted out of Sikhi. At that time, this was unheard of. Unheard of. Frangi religion, 20 years ago, we hated it, and now people are converting to it. Okay? Obviously, Raja Kapurthala at that time probably benefited from the financial, support of the British government in inviting these people over to convert. Yeah? There's a massive cathedral made in Amritsar, literally next door to Darbar Sahib. As you go into Darbar Sahib, this massive cathedral looms over it. It was huge, very tall building. Yeah, it's not there anymore. But if you look at the old pics of Amritsar, you will see that basically they built that, and they got rid of one of the palaces of Ranjit Singh, and they built it there. Okay, so it was quite a deep intent to malign Sikhi and wipe it out. They definitely wanted to get rid of Sikhi because they knew Sikhs get their strength from Sikhi. Okay, so to control these people, get rid of the power of Sikhi. They also tried to. They also did increase their control of the Gurdwara. What you get in 1859 is a Gurdwara administration plan. The British government is now making a plan on how the Gurdwaras of the Sikhs are to be administered. Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? Imagine the Sikhs giving, a church administration plan. It's pretty rude. They appoint a Sarabba. This is the person who's going to administer this for them, the head of the kind of, the administration of the Sikh Gurdwara. The Mahants again strengthened their positions under this guy. They actually stopped Katha, okay, in a lot of Gurdwara, and in Harmandir Sahib, no more Katha happening. It's all Kirtan only. And to this date now, that tradition continues. You've got to question, why are we changing our traditions, not going back to the traditions we had? But this happens. And the slogan of Raj Kariya Khalsa, you've got to remember what it meant in those days. It meant the Khalsa will rule the world. Yeah? And it still means that. That was banned from people from saying it in Harmandir Sahib. Yeah? And people still to this day don't say Raj Kariya Khalsa in Harmandir Sahib. In 1877, they actually tried to auction off Harmandir Sahib. The cheek, innit? Yeah? Auction it off. On this day, nothing was going to stop it. The Sikhs were not in charge. Nihang Singhs had fled now from Punjab. They had gone down south to Hazur Sahib. Okay? There was no Sikh Fauj. Okay? Most of the people subservient to the British. It's been, by the way, run about 27 years since the British Raj actually happened, and about 37 years since the Ranjit Singh kingdom was in full swing. So times have changed massively. Imagine how 37 years ago what Britain was like. Okay? So nothing was going to stop this apart from Pratak Maratha to come down and do it. So this is a recorded incident in Harmandir Sahib. This story I'm telling you now, there's a plaque about it in Harmandir Sahib that records this. On the day of the sale of the auction, okay, the Sikhs are sitting there, obviously in tears. The Harmandir Sahib is going to be sold off. Yeah, and on this day, a big ball of light comes down, yeah, from the sky, like a lightning ball. Yeah, comes down, goes around Harmandir Sahib, goes inside the Harmandir Sahib, comes back outside, right outside the Kal Takht, where this auction is going to take place, and then disappears. The British are so freaked out by this, okay, they abandon the sale. Okay, so Pratak Maharaj came down to save Harmandir Sahib. Yeah, to show their colour that you can't mess with the Hari Mandir, right? So, and also, the Sikhs are banned from carrying weapons. Okay, apart from their ceremonial kirpan, you can't be out there tooled up like a Nihang Singh. Okay. Now, one of the other things they had is a big obsession with censuses, and pigeonholing people and classifying them and studying them. Yeah, this was kind of part of divide and rule. If you really want to understand people, You want to rule them, then understand them. Yeah? Understand their prejudices, and they would use that information against people, against each other, right? Play them off against each other. So when they started to say to people, what are you? They were forcing people to choose what they were. And this kind of standardized their belief system. Do you believe in this, you believe in that, then you must be this, then you must be that. So people had to sort of choose if they were Sikh or not, or they were Hindu. Yeah? And this kind of reduced the Sikh population in any way, because many people were Sikh in that sense. They would go to Gurdwara, they would Matha Tek, they would follow Bani, they would read part, but at the same time they might be reading the Hanuman Chalisa, yeah, and be a bit more eclectic. Now for me, this comes back to the point, is Sikhi a religion or is a Khalsa a religion? You might say anybody who's following Guru Granth Sahib Ji in one way is learning from Guru Granth Sahib Ji. But those that have given their head to their Guru and they belong to him, then they're the Khalsa. And they have a distinct code of conduct, a distinct look, a distinct way of, they can't do certain things, they can do certain things. But somebody who's not taken Amrit, it's kind of making their own mind up in a way, innit? How much they follow it. Some people are keeping their case, some people are not. Some people are reading parts, some people are not. Yeah. So then what differentiates that person then from somebody who's a Hindu, who's also reading part, happens to go to mandirs? And so you see, just for me, there's the wider world and there's a Khalsa. Yeah? The Khalsa is following the rules strictly, yeah, and giving themselves to the Guru, and they follow nothing else but Guru. And everybody else can kind of take and pick and kind of follow as much they're inspired, as much Guru has kirpa upon them. Yeah? But when they decide to say, look, I want to follow it properly, then in a way you got to, the Khalsa is there for them. Okay? But also, the Sikhs suddenly start to understand that this is an important way to get power within the British system. Okay? Because the British system works on classifications, it works on people saying, tick, I am a Sikh. Now you need to get people to tick you're a Sikh, because the more you are, the bigger your numbers, the more you can have power within the British system. So now we have to organize ourselves to kind of play this new game of democracy in the British system. So this is what's happening at the same time. I'm just giving you an idea of the kind of different things that are going on in people's minds. Yeah. Another thing that's going on is the British now are trying to recruit the Sikhs into their army. This is where our martial history within the British army comes in. Because initially, they're trying to kill Sikhi and kind of kill the Sikh spirit. Yeah? And they kind of still malign Sikhi, but suddenly, what happens in 1857 is the Indian Mutiny. Okay? And this really is when the British government end up really taking over the East India government, Indian company, and making it their crown, and the Queen becomes the Empress of India after this. Yeah? The Indian Mutiny basically took place where the Hindus soldiers and the Muslim soldiers refused to use the British bullets, because when they used to bite into that thing where they used to keep the gunpowder pouch, there was cow gelatin used and pig gelatin used, and both of them were unhappy about this. Yeah, so they refused to use it, and there was like the British said you have to use it, and there was this big mutiny. And what they did is they captured all these British people, killed a lot, and the rest of them they had them kind of kidnapped and kept them in a little place. Yeah, so the mutiny, they said we're going to take over. This was a big thing back in England. They couldn't believe it happening, so they needed somebody neutral outside of these Hindus and Muslims to come in and destroy these guys. And the Sikhs were like the ideal, because Sikhs were northern Punjabi people. They didn't relate to Bengal and where this was taking place. Yeah, they were like southerners over there. So they kind of divide and rule, played one group off against another, and the Sikhs were the people that were then, recruited in the British army. All Sikh soldiers were then told, right, you must take Amrit and wear this particular style of British turban that they wanted. Yeah, but also they had to take an oath of loyalty to the British, an oath over the Guru Granth Sahib Ji. So they were swear to Guru Granth Sahib Ji to be a Sikh, and they were swear to be loyal to the British. So this is how they kind of, a Sikh should only be loyal to the Akal Takht, really. Yeah, but they were getting them to swear loyalty on Guru Granth Sahib Ji to the British government. So they kind of, what you might say, they kind of, we became house slaves. Yeah, we were within their house, we were working for them, and yet we had a lot of freedom within it to practice, do our kirtan and do our simran, do our part, and yet only if it served the British interest. Yeah, so this was going on, and a lot of Sikhs then were signed up at this time, because again, this is 20 years after the Ranjit Singh's poll. There's been a decline. Sikhs like to be part of the army. This is seen as a very prestigious kind of job, adventure. They were like, yeah, let's go for it. So what's going on is that the common Sikhs did sign up. Then the British Army actually found these guys to be very good. And the next thing you see is a lot of Sikh regiments being formed and the Sikhs kind of becoming part of the British Army, yeah, as British Army Sikhs. What also happens though is that, as I said to you earlier, there's this preaching going on, a decline in the Hinduism kind of coming into Sikh positions, the Mahants, is that there's this thing called the Singh Sabha movement. And effectively the Singh Sabha movement was a reaction against this dilution, okay, and general decline of knowledge. And the worry was, will Sikhi survive? And many people at that time were writing articles and saying things like, you know what, in 100 years' time, this is the British person writing this, I'll put the quote up when I put the video up. In 100 years' time, people will come around in this area and they say, oh, our ancestors were once Sikhs. Because you put up statues of people with turbans and beards, and I wonder who these people were. Oh, these were our ancestors. Because now we'll all be totally Christian. This is what they were hoping for, yeah? So the Sikhs at that time were very concerned. We need to do something. In many ways, we feel that now the same panti dard in it, kuch hona chahta hai. This is what's happening at that time. Around about 1872, there's this kind of Singh Sabha movement starting up. And then in 1873, there's a big meeting in Amritsar, and the Singh Sabha of Amritsar is founded. Okay? And I'm going to talk about what their aims were. But at that time, many Gurdware, Gyani, even the Udasis, the ones that respected Sikhi, also Nirmale, all these people get together, yeah, say we need to do something. And Sardar Thakur Singh, Sandhawalia is made the chairman. Gyani Gyan Singh, one of the kind of biggest writers of the Singh Sabha movement, he becomes the secretary. Okay, so this is a Prachar movement, revivalist Prachar movement. Okay, when Gyani Gyan Singh, the things you've heard that he's written are these. Sab Sikhan ko hukam hai, Guru maniyo granth hai, Agya pe yakar ki tabe chalayo panth. This is written by Gyani Gyan Singh. He's paraphrasing Guru Gobind Singh Ji. Guru Gobind Singh Maharaj says something very similar, which we talked about it when we were talking about the Khalsa, but he found this to be more palatable to the Punjabi people, yeah? So he made it, and he made it in Punjabi, very simple Punjabi. And then also he wrote a very famous book called Twarikh Guru Khalsa. Obviously not so famous nowadays amongst the Sikh community, but in India at that time it was massive, yeah? And it's poetry, the whole of it is in poetry. The Sikhs used to be big poets, yeah? They wrote our history in poetry. What's Singh Sabha movement's objectives? Very important to understand, because they actually were they weren't like some angry bande, they were like educated bande, they wanted to do things properly, they had proper objectives, what we want to achieve, how we're going to go about achieving this. And this is the objectives: to propagate the true Sikh religion and restore Sikhism to its pristine glory. In 1873, they are worried about Sikhi going back to its pristine glory. Kirtan was still massive at that time, yeah. Shastra Vidya was still around, yeah. The Itihas was just fresh in life, and yet Sikhi's already gone down. Where are we now? Yeah, a full 150 years really, from that time, 130, 40 years since. Am I right? Or 200? How many years is it? 1973. Yeah, 130, 40 years since that time. How far have we gone? Yeah, since then, in our understanding of Bani, and our understanding of our Itihas, yeah, what Guru Sahib's story, what do we know about our Gurus? Because Sikhi is just two things, yeah. What did Guru Sahib do? What did they say? So now, how much of that are we close to compared to these guys back then? And they're worried about the decline, trying to go back. So you can see, if it's worrying for them, we should be really worried, yeah. To edit and publish and circulate historical religious books. They published a lot. They were like printing press. You might say, they were just, if today's medium is YouTube and the internet, they were just making videos day in, day out, just getting them out there to people, yeah. Propagate current knowledge using Punjabi as a medium. Why? Because the British were using Urdu, okay. Hindi was in the resurgence, and Punjabi was not seen as an important language. And they were going to kill Punjabi, because if you kill Punjabi, you kill Sikhi as well, yeah. And they were, because people won't read Gurmukhi, right? So this was part of their plan. They wanted to bring things into Punjabi. So they started translating books into Punjabi, English books into Punjabi, Hindi books into Punjabi, so that Punjabi people can learn things in Punjabi and keep that language alive. Okay, very much one of the main things. They were very much into tracts and printing. They printed off so many things, yeah, and newspapers and stuff. Reform and bring back into Sikh fold the apostates. Apostate means somebody who's left Sikhi. Patit keh lo, yeah, patit is a word that's used, yeah. And then finally, to interest high-placed Englishmen in and ensure they associate with the education program of the Sabha. It was the Singh Sabha's policy to avoid criticism of other religions and discussion of political matters. So what were they? A Prachar movement that didn't get into controversy, didn't annoy the British, so they got stopped, and didn't get into politics about the British Raj. They're like, yo, let's leave that aside for now. Let's focus on getting Sikhi spread out there. Yeah? And so really they were like playing the political game. If we go on. Now in 1879, so 73 then, was it formed? The Singh Sabha of Lahore is formed as well. So now another big part, you know, because Amritsar and Lahore are the main two cities, yeah? No, they're not that far away. But what happens is the Lahori Singh Sabha is a little bit more, they're a little younger, less established people. They're a bit more like fire in their belly, yeah? They, you know, some of the people like Diwan Bhutta Singh is the president of that. You know, you've got people like, well, a lot of us might know, but Professor Gurmukh Singh was one of the main people to remember. You know, he's one of the main leaders of the Singh Sabha movement. They had working committees. They were not like as old. The people in Amritsar were kind of old dynasties. Yeah, you had a famous, I forgot his name, but he's from the Bedi family, and he was like a, you know, like a very famous person throughout Sikh history, and he was one of the main leaders of the Amritsari Singh Sabha, and this is Lahore Singh Sabha. So there was two parts. Gurmukh Singh, one of the main personalities. Professor Jahavar Singh, Bhai Veer Singh. Now Bhai Veer Singh is important because he's part of the Singh Sabha movement, but he writes so much, they call him the sixth river of Punjab. Yeah? He's just flooding, yeah, articles. He's a very big spiritualist as well. A lot of people were influenced by this guy. Bhai Veer Singh was not just a writer or an academic, he was a proper Bhagat. Yeah? Baba Harnam Singh in their book of in Rampur Khile Wale, they write their book of Sekaniya, they go and meet him, and they said they used to talk to each other at a spiritual level, higher up than kind of physical plane. They would communicate with each other. And once when they went to meet him because they were falling ill, Bhai Veer Singh was quite ill, Baba Harnam Singh sitting outside, no one knows who he is, because he was quite a simple one in terms of their clothing. And Bhai Veer Singh's inside, and then the servant comes out and goes, "Are you Baba Harnam Singh?" Yes, I am. He goes, "Bhai Veer Singh's calling you." Yeah, he comes inside. So they were of that level. Other major people, Khan Singh Nabha, yeah, in 1898 wrote a very famous book saying, "We are not Hindus, hum Hindu nahi." But it was a response to a book that said, "Hum Hindu hain." Yeah? So there's like a tract war going on against the Arya Samaj. Okay? Very famous person was Gyani Dit Singh. Gyani Dit Singh was like, he could debate anybody. Yeah, this guy, he debated a lot of famous Hindu kind of pundits and stuff. He beat them many, many times. He'd go to places and debate people. He was like a, you know, and he was from Lahore. He's a low caste banda. I went to the Pind that he was from. He's really well respected amongst the sort of nowadays in education, especially the kind of what you might call the missionary community. Yeah. Now, because he's low caste based, bear this in mind. Yeah, caste is still a big thing at that time. Sikhs haven't got rid of this. Gyani Dit Singh, yeah, would do katha in a gurdwara, do talks. He was not to have prashad in the gurdwara. He had to go outside to near the tree outside the main darbar, where they would give prashad to lower caste people. And yet, he never once argued about that. He accepted that, and yet he was doing prachar in the gurdwara, inside on the stage. Yeah, these people, they were determined. Even if they were treated really horribly and pushed away, they were determined to keep on going and do something for the Panth. Yeah, and in terms of prachar, they were successful. Yeah, they did a lot of prachar. Okay, Gyani Gyan Singh, again, secretary of the Amritsar, but he's one of the main people in the Singh Sabha movement as well. So these are like the stars at that time of. Now you might say, some people say, well, they criticize them to say, you know, they kind of changed some of the history. They went away from Tata Khalsa principles or from the Nihang Singh principles. But the Nihang Singhs weren't really in Punjab at that time. Yeah, they were down in Hazur Sahib and places like that. And also, these guys had to play the political game because they had to carry on doing what they were doing. Otherwise, what would happen? They'd get shut down if they started talking about the real Raj Khalsa, the revolution. So they were playing a political game, and they do get criticized. But I think overall, we have to rate them for what they did. You know? At that time, it must have been hard, thinking that Sikhi is going to die out for them to do all of this work. Yeah. What happens in 1902 is that these two Singh Sabha groups are brought together into the chief Khalsa Diwan. There's new leadership, a lot of the old people die out, okay? And some of the successes they had, so the Singh Sabha movement becomes into the Khalsa Diwan, yeah? The successes they had is in 1905, idols are removed from Harimandir Sahib, okay? That's a pretty big success, I'd say. Also, the Nand Karaj Act is instituted. So now, it's a legal act that the Sikhs, when they get married by Nand Karaj, it's a Sikh act. It's not classified as a Hindu marriage. This is the act that the Indian government got rid of, yeah? When we got independence, yeah, in 1847, they got rid of this act, which was around when the British set it up. And it was exclusively Sikh ceremony of marriage. In 1909, that was set up. And basically what they did for me, okay, they had faults or whatever you can call, but what they really did was they set up a kind of an environment, yeah, for a revival. They set the stage so people knew roughly what Bani means, they knew roughly what Sikhi is about, and now they wanted to do something even more than what these guys had done. Okay. Now, the problems with the Singh Sabha movement, yeah, one was that they they sought the favour of the British government, yeah, because it was their patronage of the British that allowed them to succeed in what they were doing. So the British wanted to have Sikhs join the First and Second World War, the Second World War later, First World War, into the army, and so they were big supporters of recruitment. They were like, yo, join, it's good for us, the British people will like us more. Because, so they basically, it's like whatever the British wanted, if it was like roughly would get us more, they were like, let's do it, because otherwise, we can't do our prachar. They were seen by many people as being quite weak, especially those people that were involved in what comes up after 1905, 1909, the Indian independence movement is increasing. Yeah, you got the Gaddar movement starting from Sikhs abroad. There's the localized, Indian independence movement, and these guys say, "Oh, you guys, you're not interested. You're just lucky the colonial government. You're just interested in working with them. We need to have a war against these people, kick them out." Yeah, so the young sort of firebrands aren't really keen on these people. Also, they didn't really work anyway to free the Gurdwaras from the Mahants and the British control. They worked around it, okay? So these are the two criticisms that were leveled against them. So again, they were seen as weak by those who were involved in the Gurdwara reform movement. Keep going. So what happens? So now that you've got the turn of the century going on, it's 1909, what you've got is a big thing of the Khalsa Diwan and the Singh Sabha movement, but then you've also got two other movements going on. Indian independence, Sikhs are quite involved in that, and you've got the Gurdwara reform movement. Now this, I'm going to talk, for the rest of this session, we'll talk about the Gurdwara reform movement, okay? We're not going to focus on the Indian independence movement because next week, on a Tuesday when we are at UBS, then we'll be discussing from 1925 and the Indian independence movement all the way up to 47 and then after. So I'm going to leave that aside for now. Just bear in mind it's happening, and yet the Sikhs, the Singh Sabha movement is already part of it. Okay, and this movement's not really part of it either. This is more about the Sikh Gurdwara reform movement. Okay, which basically is we need to get the English and the Mahants out of our Gurdwara. They should come back into our hands. Okay, there's a big desire to do this. We might need one of these now. In fact, I won't say we might. We do need one of these. Yeah. In 1913, Gurdwara Rakabganj in Delhi. Yeah, there's a big morcha over there. So how this kicks off is morchas. It isn't just like they don't sit down and decide, right, we're going to do something. You get this kind of morchas happening, people writing, people talking, people getting stuff done. And so this movement is not really as established as like, but it has culminations in different things. I'll talk about them. Lucky Shah Vanjara, this Gurdwara Rakabganj is where Lucky Shah Vanjara burnt his house down with Guru Tegh Bahadurji's bodies inside it. Yeah, and the Gurdwara was made around that Rakabganj. The government decided to just take some land off the Gurdwara, okay, because they wanted to make a road. Instead of going around it, they said, we'll just take your road, take your land, right? So the Sikhs are very unhappy. There was a big lot of protests, fierce agitation there to say, no, you can't do this. In 1914, Bhai Randir Singh Ji, okay, who is kind of like, you might say the founder or like the main kind of, person respected by the AKJ, he is very much involved in inciting the army to revolt. If you want to find out more about him, there's a book about him. Yeah, you can read Rangle Sajjan and many other books like Jail Chittiyan. He was sent to jail. His jail sentence ended up him going all the way to like the Andaman Nicobar Islands. Yeah, he was out all the way. I don't know if you know where those. They're like kind of south of Sri Lanka. He was sent way over there. The British were exporting all these freedom fighters. Yeah, either they were involved in Sikh freedom or in Indian independence. They were just getting them out of the country. Yeah, and what happens is the Sikhs do start to regain control of a number of Gurdwara in the 20s. I'm going to talk about a few more morche that happened here. Go on. 1914, World War I breaks out. A lot of Sikhs joined the World War. Yeah, joined the British Army. It's a very large volunteer army, and these guys, the Singh Sabha, were obviously plugging that. Yeah, but at the same time, what you get is that people are leaving the India and going to America and Canada. And when they're over there, they see the freedoms of those countries, and they start to realize how badly they are done by the British, right? And they organize themselves abroad, and then they say, right, we need to go back and do something back home and change something. And so what you do is you then get people from abroad, revolutionaries coming to India to change India and free India. Okay, there was the Babbar Akali movement. We're going to talk about that next time. And effectively, there were revolutionaries, and Punjab, because of this independence movement going on, became like a police state. Okay, and what you then get is all the Jallianwala Bagh, General Dyer. That happens at this time. Also, the All India Sikh League is set up. So you know the All India Muslim League, headed by Jinnah, that was headed up. We also had an All India Sikh League. Yeah. And these are people that were agitating against the British government and trying to lobby for Sikh rights. You got to remember something. When the British came to India in some 50s and took it over, they always told themselves that we're a nice bunch of people. What we're really doing is civilizing this country. We're bringing them democracy. We're bringing them, teachings. So we're actually helping this. And so the British public has actually kind of bought this, because slavery was banned, yeah, and they did feel that they were having an impact upon India. So what the narrative of the Indian independence movement was this: we don't need you, we can rule ourselves. Thank you very much. Yeah, and so all these leagues and all these politicians, they were trying to show the British that actually you are not a just leadership, and secondly, we don't need you to rule us. Okay, so these were what they were doing. In April 1919, basically, General Dyer, yeah, he's running Punjab. The Gaddars are coming in. There's a lot of revolution going on. Punjab is a police state. There's a street, you might have seen it in the movie Shaheed Udham Singh, where people are not allowed to walk straight, they have to crawl. There's all these things, and it's all designed to humiliate people and break their spirit. Yeah, this thing will come up again and again in our history. If you watch Sangat TV, we're talking about this. The point of this is that they wanted to break the spirit of the Sikhs. Okay, stop them becoming so revolutionary. Yeah, make them docile citizens to just follow what the government is saying. Okay, and the Sikhs weren't prepared to do that. And so in April 1919, General Dyer, he walks into the park, Jallianwala Bagh. Bagh means park. Okay, it's a park, Jallianwala, and there had been a ruling that people are allowed to gather in large numbers, because then there would be agitation. And the Sikhs did gather on that day. It was a very peaceful movement. There was just people, and they were protesting about something to do with Sikhi. Yeah, so I don't know the exact context right now, but there was some kind of thing that they were talking about. Yeah, there was subtext, something political, but it was a peaceful protest. And what happens is Dyer walks into this park, which only really has one exit. Okay, strolls in. He has like soldiers with guns and sort of a machine gun as well. And he decides to just fire into the crowd. Yeah, no warning given, no time left to disperse. No thing, okay, if anybody wants to stay, we'll get shot at. It was just started firing straight. And he killed 379 people, they say, and over 2,000 were wounded. Yeah, 1,000, 2,000. A lot of people, okay, were jumping into the wells to escape the bullets. Okay, there's a famous coup there, okay, where people are jumping in. If you watch the video, Shaheed Udham Singh, he talks about that. Right next door to Harmandir Sahib. As soon as you come out of Harmandir Sahib, you just walk forwards about 200 meters, it's on your right hand side. David Cameron went there as well. Okay, he expressed regret, not an outright apology, but regret for what General Dyer did. Now, check this out. When I talked to you about how badly our institution was sold out and how badly they were controlled, the Sarabba of Harmandir Sahib, Arur Singh, gives a Saropa to General Dyer for what he did. yeah, for actually quelling and keeping peace in Punjab after this. Yeah. Shaheed Udham Singh is there as a child. He sees this happen around him, okay, and he swears that he will get badla. He will get revenge on General Dyer. And you know the story. He travels across to here, okay, and you know he's involved with working with the IRA and people like that. And finally, he walks into a courtroom where where he's generalizing a talk, a public talk. He walks in with the Bible, and the Bible's cut around with the gun inside it. And in 13th of March 1940, he then stands up and he says to him, General Dyer, you know, I think some along the lines of, you know, this is for Amritsar, and then shoots him there and then. Okay, and he shoots some other people as well, but not all of them. They didn't die, but Dyer did there and then. And then he took his sorry? All right, he didn't shoot Dyer. All right. See, my history's not always on point. Put this in the video. Okay. General O'Dwyer was shot dead, not Dyer. Okay. But the point is that he said he's going to take badla on this, and here in London, by the way, this happened, yeah. And he was then hung. He was charged. He proudly admitted that he was responsible and he was doing this for what happened in Amritsar. Okay. He was hung, and his body was buried here. But then the Sikhs and the Indians, and after independence, I think they asked for his body to be expatriated back to India, and he got a hero's welcome. Okay, his body. Moving on. So leaving the independence movement, because next week we're going to talk about Kartar Singh Sarabha and other people like Bhagat Singh and people like that. But on the Gurdwara reform side, what happens is that the Gurdwara reform movement and the Central Sikh League, which is another political organisation, okay, like the All India Sikh League, they joined forces, and in 1920, okay, only 2 years after the First World War is over, they then, and after obviously 1919 as well with Jallianwala Bagh, they form the SGPC. Now most people don't know how to say this. They just remember Shromani Gurdwara Prabandhak Committee. You might know Gurdwara Prabandhak Committee because they're all called that. Yeah, Shromani means the highest. So Sri means Shromani as well. Yeah, but they set this up Shromani, and what they do, what this is a way to tell the British, we don't need you to run our Gurdwara for us. We are organised. We can do things ourselves. Yeah, that's the main purpose of it. Nowadays it's maligned, but you got to understand, they were working within the British system. They had to reform. They had to present themselves to the British in the British way. And this was the British way. Just like, for example, we want to set up a charity here, we have to work along with the Charities Commission. Yeah, we're going to set up our own thing and enjoy all the benefits that come with that. We have to work within the system. So they work within the system and they set up this. But the Khalsa obviously wanted to run its own Gurdwara, which is why they did this. And they aim to show democracy. So they've had members who are voting, yeah, and getting people to register themselves as being members of the SGPC so they can vote. The problem here is voting a part of Sikhi? That's a question to you guys. So how many people think that voting is equal, is a part of Sikhi? Okay, well, how many people feel that it's not part of Sikhi? Okay, a few more hands gone up. So who gets to decide then how Gurdwara are run? Sangat? All the Sangat? Any Sangat? Committee members? Who gets to choose the committee members in? Panj Pyare? Somebody said Panj Pyare? Okay, who feels they have a right to vote in their local Gurdwara? Who feels they don't have the right to vote in the local Gurdwara? Okay. Now, the thing is the question I put up there is the right to vote. That's the key thing, isn't it? Right to vote. Who has the right to vote? Because when you have democracy, it's all about getting the right to vote. So a 12-year-old kid can't vote. They have no right to vote. So they just have to sit there and deal with it. Yeah. But a 16-year-old or a plus can vote. Oh, I think it's 18 in this country, but they're bringing it to 16. Yeah. Here's another question. Then I asked that question: who's the right to vote? Who feels they have the right to be one of the Panj Pyare? Not a single hand goes up in the room. Yeah. Including mine staying down as well, conspicuously. Yeah. Because how does it work? You prove yourself, worthy of being one of the Panj Pyare. Not just every Amritari can become Panj Pyare as well. Yeah? They have to be of a certain caliber, certain amount of red, certain amount of knowing their banis off by heart. At least the Panj Bani have to be memorized to become one of the Panj Pyare. So it's daily discipline, right? They have to be well regarded by all the rest of the Sikhs. The Sangat choose the Panj Pyare. Yeah? But not just any, they have to fit certain rules, but obviously they get, they're marked out. Yeah? The Panj Pyare, when they stand in front of an audience, the audience accepts them anyway because they all know them and they respect all of them. There's no grumblings, oh, I don't like this one, I don't like that one. These are the people that you would go, wow. Yeah? Hanji.
How would the Sangat elect the Panj Pyare?
Well, the Sangat wouldn't, you see. The Sangat wouldn't. The Khalsa would elect the Panj Pyare. Yeah? And they would be pushing each other forward. The people, tusi jao, mani. And the people would get sort of funneled into this kind of thing. And then obviously there were this key test. Do you have your Bani Kant? Do you have a good nickname? There's certain tests that are already there. Yeah? A certain part of your Naam Kamai and things like this. So basically my point is, if we don't have a right to Panj Pyare, our leadership was always the Panj Pyare. So we have a meritocracy in place. Our system is not voting, it's a meritocracy. And the only people who really get to express a vote in the leadership of the Panth are the Khalsa. And the Khalsa were always led by the Panj Pyare. Yeah? So the rest of the Sikhs never really saw themselves as being able to vote. They saw themselves as being like, you might say, the king and the subjects. The Khalsa was the king, the Khalsa was a Raja, Khalsa Raj, and the people were the Parja. And whether they were Hindu, they were Sikh, it didn't really matter. As long as the Khalsa was living up to his duty of providing food, safety, peace, people were happy, yeah, to just carry on about their business. So, well, you might say that, I'll put this point up, equal or different, and it's just kind of a discussion. For me, not every Sikh is equal, yeah, in terms of as a human being, but not every Sikh has the same amount of right to speak in a Gurdwara environment, okay? Because anybody who follows a Sikhi is a Sikh, but only those people that are actually following it properly get the say in the workings of the state. Because a Sikh Gurdwara or a group is not an apolitical environment. It's a political environment, yeah? Everything for us is meedi peedi. So in our politics, only those people that are actually committed politicians should take part. That's my view, and that's how the Khalsa in those days did see it. Yeah? And the Panj Pyare are kind of attest to that. That do we see we have a right to be a Panj Pyara? No. Maybe somebody might think we're worthy of being one, but most people will say, no, it's not me. Like Kapoor Singh is an example. When they made him a leader, he didn't want to be a leader. And he made sure he got his seva and that the Panj Pyare gave it to him. Yeah? So, but the point is that the SGPC adopted democracy of anybody who was a Sikh. So the next thing they had to do was work out who was a Sikh and who gets to vote. Yeah? Because it was very fluid back then. So that leads to the next thing. Also, something else they did is they set up this Shromani Akali Dal. Who's heard the Akali Dal? Heard this thing floating about? Yeah. This was set up at that point. And what it was is a Sikh political party. So this was like a Sikh Gurdwara, Sikh committee of leadership. And then on the politics side, the politicians and the kind of people that were going to go and take part in political agitation, that was the Akali Dal. Okay? And they were given the mandate. So now, Akali Dal is no longer a Sikh political party. It officially no longer is a Sikh political party. In its documents, it is now a secular party. Okay? It doesn't have any religious affiliation. But they kept the name, which relates obviously to Akali. Dal means the army. Akali means the immortals, or from Guru Gobind Singh's time being the Akali. So this was the army of the immortals. Yeah. The Vajja, just a point from last week. Yeah. The Vajja and even Guru Granth Sahib Ji in Sarup in Padched was banned at that time by the Sikh organizations. What does Padched mean? It means that the words are all joined up before. So if you looked at Gurbani, it would just look how we talked about it in the Guru Granth Sahib Ji. All the words are joined up, there were no breaks. You got to the end of a line, then you had break, and then the next line was all just words with no breaks. So only people that could read it, had been trained, could read it. Aam Banda couldn't even read Guru Granth Sahib Ji, had they not had training. Yeah, that's kind of the point. The point was that people that understand it should be reading it to somebody else. Those that don't know what they're reading, then they shouldn't really be reading it to the public because they might make a mistake. Yeah. So it's all about meritocracy. It's all about skills-based respect. You know Bani, then you can read Bani. You know Kirtan, then you do Kirtan. You couldn't just pick up the Vajja and start hitting a key, pump the thing, and you hit a perfect note. Yeah? You can't hit a perfect note with our instruments, Tanti sides. You have to spend a lot of time and even use the bow just to get the note perfect before you can train your voice to it. Now with the Vajja, that's it. 2 seconds, everybody's a musician. Yeah? It was always about proving yourself to be worthy of being in that stage. And Sikhi's always been about proof. It's not been about instant, yes, you're a Sikh, you can do whatever you like. Yeah. In 1921 then, 1 year after the SCPC set up, there's a big showdown. Nankana Sahib. Saka Nankana Sahib, yeah. Big katha by Baba Ranjit Singh on this, yeah. Many people have written books about this. Basically, Mahant Narayan Das, he was the head of it. Yeah? He owned, effectively, Nankana Sahib. Nankana Sahib is where Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj was born. Okay? Am I right about that? You should check in. See? I don't know. Now, he had a reputation for immorality. Okay? People accuse him of rape, accuse him of lewdness, dancing girls, alcohol, drugs, you name it. He was just living it up. And the money was flowing in. Yeah? Because Nankana Sahib, innit? People want to go see Guru Nanak Maharaj was born. So, he was given that position by the British and he was tolerated. The Sikhs were fed up with this guy, they wanted to get rid of him. Okay? Basically, they tried to negotiate with the Sikhs that came up there to have this, to kind of get rid of him. And in the end, he decided, but later then, he just hired a bunch of thugs. So when the Sikhs came to negotiate with him, they just shot them. Yeah, and they killed them. And on February in 1921, killed about 130 to 150 Sikhs. Yeah? And, by shooting, burning them. This was not a nice guy. Yeah? And all these guys wanted was to bring Sikhi back into that Gurdwara. So, the next day, massive agitation. 2,200 Akalis turned up. Kartar Singh Jabbar turned up. This was all part of British India, by the way. Nankana Sahib is in Pakistan now. At that time, it was all part of British India. Yeah. So this agitation was massive. The British got a bit scared by this. They're like, "Yo, let's not let this flare up." Yeah. And they gave the keys to SGPC. So the SGPC started now to manage Gurdwara and win little battles. And they had more and more battles. We'll go into this, yeah? So the next one, 1922, Darbar Sahib Amritsar, by the way, at that time, was run by the British. The keys in the hand of the SGPC, and we run it. Khadak Singh is the president of SGPC. He's given the keys. Just a few notes. There was, interesting things were going on at that time. For example, in 1937, okay, there was actually a Chatka conference, if you know what that means, yeah? But the Sikhs have been told by the Muslims that you can't Chatka goats, you have to have them halal. Only we're allowed to do them. Our butchers' livelihood is being threatened by you Sikhs. So the Sikhs decided to, express their sovereignty from this rule and have a big conference. And they Chatka about 50 goats to prove the point that we can do it too, yeah? It's just a point to know that the mentality of the Sikhs at that time was to rebel against any rules being put upon them. So whenever someone says you can't do this, they're like, oh yes we can. Yeah. In 1922, Guru Ka Bagh Morcha, okay, there's a big morcha. They stopped the Akalis from using some wood from the trees to cook the langar. Yeah. And so what they did is they had a massive morcha there, and it was a non-violent morcha. So they ordered Ardas that we are not going to be violent on this day, Maharaj. Yeah? Now, this is in 1922, okay? And C.F. Andrews is a reverend at that time. He's there, he's observing this, a Christian guy. And he says the vow of non-violence was kept to the letter. If you watch the videos online about this, yeah, they are being beaten with sticks, pushed back, and they're just sitting there saying, Waheguru, Waheguru, and they're being beaten. And he says that every day he saw like 100 Sikhs being crucified. I saw 100 Christs being crucified because they were so steadfast that they were not going to use violence. Okay. Now this non-violence was before Gandhi and all of his non-violence. Okay. In many ways, Gandhi saw what happened next because this was a PR disaster for the British government. Okay. All over his report, C.F. Andrews' report, other people's reports are being now posted out in British Parliament, in British newspapers, the free press. Remember. Yeah, and what's happening is is that the Sikhs are peaceful and the British are brutal. And does that work with the British idea that we are here to support these people, here to let them grow and become independent? So they're getting criticized that we are not these kind of, why are we so zalim towards these people, yeah? So the press is working for the Sikh interests effectively at that time. And Gandhi actually hated the praise for the Sikhs for what they did. And he hated this idea that they were getting. And so he pretty much adopted this non-violence policy. It works, but he didn't want them to get all the praise. And if people say why, how do you know this? He criticized a lot of these things that were being done at that time, okay, publicly. Never gave any support for it. Instead of saying, yes, this is good, the Sikhs are standing up, he just said, he didn't say anything, he criticized the Sikhs. And then November 1922, 3 months after this morcha, the keys then get given to SGPC. So SGPC now is winning battles, okay? Is winning morche peacefully. No gunshots are being fired. They're using non-violence against the British, okay? Keep on going. Then 1923, Jeto Morcha, okay? What happens here? The Maharaja of Nabha, who is pro the Khalsa, pro the Singh Sabha movement, he's ousted by the Maharaja Patiala, who is pro the British government, okay? And the Akalis were very annoyed by this. They set up an Akhand Path. And the British, basically, government interrupted the Akhand Path, which is like really rude, isn't it? Yeah? And arrested them. And people were very annoyed about this. So there's a morcha every day, 25 people were asserting their right to free worship, yeah, and getting arrested, doing Akhand Path. And because of this one, the SGPC and Qaeda will actually get voted to be illegal organizations. Yeah? 50 members are arrested, but they don't give up. 924, another morcha, Gurdwara Bhai Pheruji. Again, in Lahore at this time, 25 jathas every day are going up to court arrest. So basically what they do is, this is the system at that time, yeah? They would go in court arrest, you put them in jail. Next day, another bunch of people court arrest, you put them in jail. Soon, jails are full, no more place to put them. So they're making tent cities to put these people. Every day, more people. So there's officers now required to go over there, officers required to go over here, and the British government can't cope with it, right? And then they have to do something. And the whole thing is say, do something, do something. They don't want to deal with it. They're already overstretched in England, remember. The First World War has been very costly. They're trying to cope with the empire. Empire is disintegrating, and this is just too much for them to cope with. So what they do is, in this time, 924, they actually kill 100 people as well, shaheed jathas, yeah, in this time. So people were becoming shaheed for this. This was not like a peaceful thing where no one's getting killed. People are dying from blows to the head. People are dying from bullet wounds, and yet they're carrying on doing this. And 1925, they said, right, forget this. Yeah? And they set up the Sikh Gurdwaras and Shrines Act. They give votes to the Sikhs, and the SGPC basically takes control of the Gurdwara. Yeah? And what the thing is the voting power was given to Sikhs who did not profess any other religion. So you had to be a Sikh and not also a Hindu, not also something else. Only a Sikh could vote. Now.
Didn't Baba Anam Singh go to Jaipur and actually fight the British?
No, he was much later. Baba Hanam Singh, Rampur Khede Wale. There was another Baba Hanam Singh of Hoti Mardan Wale, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, he was around that time. Right. A lot of the sons like Sant Antar Singh, they were around at this time. Yeah. So I mean, we've got to rush through things. But in terms of, you can read about all of this. But what I'm trying to give you is a mood of what was going on. Yeah, there's morche going on. People trying to free the Gurdwara. There's also independence going on. There's also this Prachar movement going on. Okay, there's also kind of like a third movement separate from the Prachar movement of the Singh Sabha movement is a Sant movement. Yeah, Sant Baba Atar Singh, Baba Anand Singh. These people are coming up as well, and they again spreading Sikhi using the Sant ways. Yeah, of Tarne and Prachar and traveling around. Yeah. So there's many things going on, but there's a revival. It's quite an exciting period. You can imagine movement, things are like, we're getting our Gurdwara back, we're doing Prachar, people are coming back into Sikhi. So it's kind of like a revival movement going on, yeah? It's quite exciting. And at the same time though, there's a need then, and I'm going to talk about this, the Sikh Ret Mirada, because this is basically a child of what happens with the SGPC. SGPC set up, okay? The Gurdwara is now in charge of the SGPC. They've been given charge of all the historical Gurdwaras in Punjab. Okay? But it's a voting organization and only Sikhs are allowed to vote. But there's no quite straightforward definition of a Sikh. And what are the Sikh ceremonies? Now these Gurdwaras are in charge of one committee, they need to have a sort of, a system for how a Gurdwara should run, something more standardized. And they realize that they need this because the British government works very much on standardization and upon rules. So you need kind of like a code book. So if one Gurdwara is doing something wrong, how do you know they're doing something wrong? You need to have a standardized code book. If you read a Sikh Maradare, bring it with me. If you read that document, it's 32 pages long, 34 pages long, or 32. 8 of the pages are all about who was involved in it. Okay? And so 24 pages are actually about what Sikhi is. 24 pages. Our entire rule book is 24 pages. Yeah? And it's enough, honestly. If you just read it and understood it. And if you haven't read it, download a copy online. I'll put the link up there. And you can also, you can go on our channel, and there's a whole playlist called Sikh Riyat Maryada. And we did a katha of it for about 2.5 hours. Worth your while to watch it, because it doesn't just cover what you might think is like, Gurdwara. It covers everything. It covers your part, your ardas. It covers how to get married, how to make prashad, how to run the Gurdwara, a wedding, birth ceremony, the birth naming ceremony. So many different things in just 24 pages. Very simple, very straightforward. And it's for me, it's like the basis for agreement in the Panth. Okay? How did it come about? Around about 1915, they were saying we need to get one of these. The idea was out there. In 1931-32, they made a draft. Okay? And that draft then was agreed in 1932. And then the agreement to get it finalized took 13 years. So for 13 years, we were fluffing about trying to get a 24-page document agreed. Yeah? Why? Because everybody had to assent to it. Because it had to be a Khalsa, a Kal Takht Sikh Riyat Maryada. The SGPC only print this Maryada. They didn't make it. Okay? If you know my viewpoints, I really support this document. I'm a big fan of it. Because a lot of the arguments in our Panth are kind of very sensibly, settled just by this little document. If you're not much into Sikhi, you might find it a bit strange because it's quite, it's just very boring in that sense, yeah? It doesn't talk about Naam that much. However, when you're into Sikhi and you see the politics amongst different groups, yeah, and you understand, then you see this is quite an enlightened document. Okay? It is based upon Hukamnamas and Bani. So it's not just magical, people sat down and wrote notes. It's based upon a lot of history. It defined a Sikh, and because it was about voting rights, and because the British system had to work. Now what is a Sikh here, defined by this, okay? Somebody who believes in one Akal Purkh. Is it in your document? Although I don't think it is. I wrote this later on today. One Akal Purkh. You have to believe in. So the problem with this definition is about belief. It's about belief, okay? It's not about following, it's about believing. So the Sikhi is more about following, but the basis, first page says this: you must believe in one Akal Purkh, not 2 or 3, just one. Okay? Secondly, you must believe in the 10 gurus. You can't say, like a lot of people do, I do like the first 5 gurus. I'm just not so sure about the next 5 gurus. You must believe in all 10 of them. ठीक है ना? From Guru Nanak Ji Maharaj to Guru Gobind Singh Maharaj. You can't say, oh, I like Guru Nanak. I don't know what happened after then. Yeah? A lot of people do this as well. So, the third thing you must believe in is all of their writings. Okay? All the writings of the Gurus. The third thing is Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj. Okay? And then the fourth thing is all the writings of all the 10 Gurus. Now, why is Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji the third thing, and the fourth thing is all the writings of all the 10 Gurus? Because most of the writings of the 10th Guru are not in Guru Granth Sahib Ji. Nearly all of them. Okay? So therefore, you can't disregard Guru Gobind Singh Ji's Bani. A lot of people now, there's an organization called Guru Granth Da Khalsa Panth. Yeah? How can you be a Khalsa Panth of Guru Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj? Are you saying you don't believe in Guru Gobind Singh Ji's Bani? In which case you can't be Khalsa, because to make Amrit, you need 3 Banis from Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj. Yeah? So it's a bit of a silly concept, but the point is you must believe in all 10 writings of all 10 Gurus. And the fifth point, and also you must believe in the Amrit ceremony. You can't say, oh ji, main to na Sant to Amrit la sega. Sant ji gave me Amrit from some. We ask some people to say, I'm Amritari. Let's do katha about this the other day. They were like, so if you ask some people, they got the case, bug everything. You say, you're Amritari. They go, we are kind of Amritari. You say, how do you mean you're kind of Amritari? Well, you know, Sant was giving chula, I took some. Or Santaji was, our Baba was, you know, he eating some food, and we took the food and we ate it in his juta and his Amrit, so we became Amritari from that. You must believe in, the only Amrit you can believe in is Khande Bate the Amrit. Okay? This doesn't mean that you have to take Amrit. Yeah? You must believe that is Amrit. Yeah? Some people do criticize Khande Bate the Amrit, okay? And they say always, I would take it from the Gurus, but I'm not sure what the Panj Pyare. Again, you can't hold that belief, yeah? So these are the kind of few things you must agree upon. One Waheguru, 10 Gurus, Guru Granth Sahib Ji, writings of all 10 Gurus, Khande Bate the Amrit, and finally you must profess no other religion. Yeah? Can't be Christian and I'm kind of Christian, kind of Sikh. I'm kind of Hindu, kind of Sikh. I kind of, you know, I like Islam, but I was like Sikhi. The people that vote though have to have this view. Now I agree with you that doesn't mean that they're following Sikhi. Just saying I believe in it and then go about your normal day having a fag, couple of, you know, a bit of booze and stuff. It's not really, you know, but that was what they'd adopted because they needed something to agree upon. Okay, but that's just page 1. This is a 24-page document. This is only a small paragraph. Okay, the rest of it does go into what is Naam, what is Sikhi, what is the point of Sikhi, how should a Sikh live, should they have to have a spiritual discipline, they have to have a commitment to the Panth. So a lot of good stuff is in there, where you might be an appropriate word, but the meat, yeah, of Sikhi is in there. But at the beginning it gives you the kind of, you know, the kind of legal definitions. Other things. One point people always bring up, and I'll bring it up here. What does it say about meat? It just says you can't have halal meat. Okay? Don't kill me for it. I didn't write it. A lot of people took 13 years to make this document. It does not say you can't eat meat, but it does say you can't eat halal meat. Okay? Kutta is the definition of halal. And the other controversy, I think it deals with it quite well because it doesn't really go into it. It just says, but also it doesn't say, okay, that you should eat meat. Just so you're aware. Because if people think, you know, if it's allowed, it's great, I can do it. It doesn't say you should eat meat. All it says is you can't eat halal meat. Then also, there's a controversy in our Panth about Ragmala. Okay? And what it says is, Ragmala is right at the end of Guru Granth Sahib Ji. It's after Mandavani, Mehla, Panjava and Salok. There's a little bit which is all about, and if you see a counterpart, if they finish off with Athara Das Bis, that means it's Ragmala's read out. We talked about it last week, Ragmala. What it says is this: you may or may not read out Ragmala in your Sahaj part or counterpart. It's upon the tradition of the place. But you cannot print or make a Swarup of Guru Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj without Ragmala within it at the very end. It's quite enlightened in that way. So in Akal Takht Sahib, because it's Akal Takht is the Akal Takht Maryada, they don't read Ragmala. However, in Harimandir Sahib, they do read Ragmala. Yeah? Because that's the Maryada of Harimandir Sahib, and the Maryada of Akal Takht is for the whole Panth, so they don't read it there. Okay? So there's a story about this. Santaji, Sant Jagraj Singh Ji, his nephew was once in jail, came out of jail, had an Akhand Path done at Akal Takht to celebrate the fact that he was free from jail and thank Maharaj. At the end of the Akhand Path, the Taksali, because obviously Sanji is Taksali and so is his nephew, Damdami Taksal people are quite in favour of Ragmala. So at the end of the Akhand Path, the Ragi is going to stop at, as per Marada, at Slok, you know, at the Slok, yeah? And they put a gun to his head and they say, read it. Get on reading Ragmala. Sanji gets to hear about this, Sant Jagraj Singh Ji, and in the middle of a divan, obviously it's over by then, they walk up to him, if you stand him up and give him a big slap across his face. Say, who do you think you are to come over here and change the Murada of the Akal Takht? Yeah, this was founded by a lot of people over many, many years, and you just decided yourself to change it. Yeah. So this is why some people might not be happy with the stance about meat. Some people might not be happy with the stance of Ragmala. Other people might not be happy with, you know, what it says about only a man and woman can marry. But this is the one document that we have that's endured. Okay, and I think it's a good base for agreement. The Panth can change these Rayat Maryada, as to come together as a Panth and change parts of it, but that has to be done by the Panth, and one person cannot change Maryada. So we have to agree, to disagree on that basis. On that. Now here's the thing, yeah. Debates on this was going on at that time. Who is a Sikh? Who is a Sikh? Who is not a Sikh? Yeah. Gandhi was keen to keep the Sikhs a non-violent. Although he adopted non-violence, he didn't really want them to become violent because it kind of worked against his policy, which was embarrass the Sikhs. But also, what would violent Sikhs do next? If you start giving people the ability to become violent, then soldiers carry on being soldiers. They don't stop. So he wanted to keep them subdued and back into the kind of shantras, peaceful kind of people. Yeah. And he actually was quite against the idea that Sikhs were distinct. And this is a quote by him, just for you to note. He says, look, my belief about the Sikh gurus is that they were all Hindus. Even though Bani is saying, I'm not a Hindu. Yeah? I do not regard Sikhism as a religion distinct from Hinduism. I regard it as part of Hinduism and the reformation of Hinduism and the reformation of it in the same sense that Vaishnavism is. So Vaishnavism is a movement within Hinduism that's kind of takes out a lot of the Pakhand in Hinduism. They go, well, it's not another reform movement. Okay? And he actually called Guru Gobind Singh, this is 1925, in April of that same year, he had called Guru Gobind Singh Ji a misguided patriot. Yeah? Done India of Guru Gobind Singh Maharaj. So, the question really here for me is, this is something you guys think about, is because recently some students from Birmingham texted me and said, look, we've been invited to a talk by the Hindu Society, and it's called The Different Branches of Hinduism. And they've asked the Hindus, the Jains and the Buddhists to turn up, and the Sikhs to turn up. And that's what the Indian constitution says, are Hindus. So when it says the term Hindu, in Article 25 it says, the term Hindu here is seen to include all Jains, all Buddhists and all Sikhs. And this is what the Sikhs are annoyed about. Yeah? So the question here for you guys is to think about is, okay, we can kind of say what a Sikh is, but can anybody give me a definition of what is a Hindu?
There is no definition.
Is that a word that even occurs in the Hindu scriptures? The word Hindu? No. The word Hindu does not come up in any of the scriptures of India. Yeah? The Hindu is a word that was a cuss word. Yeah? Yeah? It was like spick if you're Hispanic. Yeah? Or if you're black, then instead of they call you a nigger. It was that kind of a cuss word. And who gave them that cuss word? The Mughals. Yeah, because it was south of India, it was just those people, those poor, suppressed people that we go every year and we loot and we pillage and we take our money back, take them back to Afghanistan. That was what it was. And now it's been adopted and become into a religion. Yeah. And I took a video down, I put it up, I took it down because you got quite offended by it. Some people did, not everybody. The point of it is that whenever we get brought into this debate about what is a Hindu, what is a Sikh, the question we should say is this: please define what your religion is. Yeah? If a Muslim says, oh, Guru Nanak Ji was Muslim, say, please define to me what is Islam. They will define Islam. Say, well then, in which case, we don't fit that bracket. Same way you can say, what is a Hindu? Yeah? And as soon as you define what Hinduism is, we can say, well, we don't fit that. We don't really read the Vedas. Okay? We read Guru Granth Sahib Ji. We don't really worship any idols. We worship the Shabad and our Gurus. And, we don't really just use Hindu terms for God, because Guru Gobind Singh Maharaj and all the Gurus are writing in Farsi and Persian, and the word Allah comes up in Vani as well. Yeah? So, we're distinct. And Guru Gobind Singh is very clear. They say, "E tisar mazhab khalsa upjo pardhana." Now, I use the word mazhab. Word mazhab exactly means religion. They say this is the third religion, the Khalsa, which has been created to be supreme. Pardhana, supreme. Yeah? So, for me, the way to understand Hinduism for us is like it's a culture. Because there's no defined version of Hinduism. Yeah? They say, oh, it's Hindu Dharma. You heard that word before, Hindu Dharma? What the word dharma means is a duty to uphold. You have certain things to do and you have to uphold. The problem is that every Hindu, the Hinduism traditionally has 4 dharmas, not just one. If you're a Brahmin, your dharma is different. If you're a Kshatriya, your dharma is different. If you're a Shuddra, your dharma is different. If you're a Vash, your dharma is different. So it's not really a dharma in that sense. Yeah, it's not really defined by a religious belief, because there's Hindus that don't believe in God. there's a version of Hinduism called Samkhya. Samkhya is essentially very similar to Buddhism. They don't have God. It's atheistic, and yet it's part of Hinduism. But a Sikh must start with Ik Oankar. It can't be just Oankar. It has to be Ik. There's one being. Karta Purkh. It's a being. Purkh means being. Yeah. So, all right. So we come to the end. Summary. Let's see. So what we've gone through today, because it's quite a long period we've covered in 2.5 hours. We went through the rise of Ranjit Singh's kingdom, how he consolidated power, okay, how he grew, how he had like military power and political power, and very astute person had things. Then we went through the decline, okay, people dying and the infighting, the 10 years of decline. We went through the Sikhs under the British, how they initially suffered quite a lot, and then from the 70s, 1870s onwards, you've got this revivalist movement of Prachar, Singh Sabha movement. You've also got then this Gurdwara reform movement, which is also non-violent, okay, and then you've got the kind of the Akali Dal being set up, SGPC, Akali Dal, Sikh Radmarada coming around, and at the same time you've got the backdrop of the Indian independence movement before even World War I, but especially after World War I, with the Ghadar movement, what's happening after that. We're going to cover more of that next time. And then Gandhi with his kind of Free India movement, which is slightly different to what the Ghadar party were doing. The Ghadars were more violent, they're prepared to take action and take power by force. Gandhi was very much against that and all about non-violence, okay? And we'll talk about more next week on Tuesday. All right, we've got a few minutes then for questions if you've got anything.